of the Kruger National Park, life depends on one thing: water. In a land burdened by heat and drought, a single ribbon cuts its reliable course through the wilderness. It's a lifeline to all creatures, great and small. In the height of the dry season, everything must come to the river. From dawn to dusk, animals converge on the banks of the Luvuvu as it winds its way through the many habitats of an area known as Pafuri. On a sandy riverbank in the far north of the world-famous Kruger National Park, a white-crowned lapwing strides through its territory. He and his mate control half a mile of riverbank. It's the height of the dry season, and the water level is at its lowest. The best time for nesting on the sandy banks. The Lapwings River is called the Luvuvu, and it flows through a very special piece of wilderness known as the Pafuri. Situated in the northeast of South Africa, Kruger National Park covers some 7,500 square miles. The Pafuri lies in the most northerly reaches of this expanse. It's sandwiched between two rivers, the Limpopo to the north and the Luvuvu to the south. When they break their banks, they nourish a great floodplain that covers much of Pafuri. Here, lush lowlands feed herds of grazers, and iconic forests grow tall and green. Where less water gathers, hardier plants grow, adding to Pafuri's incredible biodiversity. Although it makes up just 1% of Kruger's total area, Pafuri is home to 75% of all the greater park species. Among these, some creatures stand out. From species rarely seen in the rest of the reserve, to great herds of its iconic characters. But above all the others, it's Pafuri's birds that set this place apart. More than 450 species make their homes here, the greatest diversity anywhere in Kruger. For many tropical African species, this is the most southerly extent of their range. It's midwinter and the height of the dry season. After a protracted drought, the Great Limpopo River stands dry. But the Luvuvu still flows, making it a busy watering point for birds and animals alike. And the lapwings have done well to secure a spot on the banks. For almost all wildlife, each day includes a trip to the river during this trying time of year. As morning dawns in Pafuri, a herd of waterbuck grazes on the marshy floodplain. With the males weighing up to 550 pounds, these are among Africa's most heavy-set antelope. They fuel their bulk by feeding on the most protein-rich grasses and herbs they can find. And during the dry season, it's the floodplain that provides. All this protein builds up a thirst, and waterbuck are among the most water-dependent of all antelope. As the day heats up, they'll move down to the Luvuvu to drink. If not for the river, they couldn't survive here through the dry season. The river flows from west to east across the park, shaping the landscape and attracting its wildlife. Here in the west of Pafuri, it's carved a deep canyon through the rock. Known as Lana Gorge, it's testament to the Luvuvu's steady flow over the millennia. Further downstream to the east, the rocky sides give way to sandy riverbed. Here, a young bull elephant has arrived early to quench his thirst. Pafuri, with its perennial water sources and green growth, is famous for its resident elephant herds. But this bull has left his herd, and for now he leads a more solitary existence. Social contact is an integral part of elephant life, and he will have spent his first 15 years in the company of his mother, siblings, aunts and cousins. As he moves down the river, he smells the air for signs of other elephants. If he can find a group of other bachelors, he may join them for the sake of companionship. But for now, he's on his own. Just downstream, another group of social creatures makes their home. White-fronted bee-eaters live in small families consisting of a breeding pair and up to 5 related birds that'll help them raise their chicks. In a few months, when early summer brings the rains, they'll dig more nests like these into the riverbank to lay their eggs. The rain will trigger a flush of insect life, and there'll be plenty of food to feed their chicks. For now, the adults can support themselves on the insects around the river. The little water in the Luvuvu is enough to attract a range of water birds, and each starts its day by finding food in its own way. A pair of African jacanas treads delicately at the water's edge. Their long toes help distribute their weight on floating plant life. Together, the pair controls a territory along the bank, and it gives them all the insects they need. A pair of Egyptian geese forages on aquatic plants growing in a stream. They get stuck in, reaching down for the tastiest morsels. A hammerkop takes a more measured approach. He's after creatures living among the river vegetation. He prefers a breakfast of tadpoles, but he snaps up aquatic invertebrates too. For a three-banded plover, it's all about covering ground. He moves quickly along, pecking at the water's surface for insects and their larvae. It'll take a lot of this tiny prey to fill his belly. While some are enjoying the river's ample food supply, a great egret is finding things trickier. It's after fish and amphibians, but they're proving elusive. Perhaps another spot will be more productive. It readies itself for the strike, but fails again. With one last effort, he comes up with a morsel. It's not much, but it's a start. While most of the birds feed on small life, there are others here looking for bigger prey. The banks are lined with the scaly bodies of Nile crocodiles sunning themselves. Since the Limpopo River to the north dried up, many of the resident crocs have moved into the Luvuvu. Here the water still flows deep enough to sustain them. They're best known for ambushing prey from beneath the surface. But crocodiles will feed on fish too. They use their powerful tails to pursue their prey underwater. Despite their fearsome appearance, many other creatures seem comfortable in the presence of the crocodiles. A flutter of butterflies cuts a sharp contrast with the rugged reptiles. They're gathered to filter nutrients from the bank's muddy puddles. The winged gathering attracts a crowd of its own. Bee eaters. The picky birds scrape the wings from their prey before devouring them. The bee-eater family will join forces with neighboring families to defend their foraging territory against other bee-eaters. The river's water is a magnet to insects in the dry season, and the bee-eaters can't risk sharing their private food store. For many animals, Pafuri has lots to